any sort of practical tips when you do find yourself sort of, like the transparency sort of up here and you're kind of blinded by your story? What are some ways to even realize that maybe we're in that situation? And if even when we know we're in that situation, we're finding it hard to kind of pull back. And then any advice on how to see that we're trapped there, and any advice on how to kind of pull back if we're finding that difficult?
Yeah. So I would say that this gets into the third new survival strategy, which is transform resistance into response. And for me, resistance is sort of like an early warning system that we're about to flip our lid. So resistance is, I don't like where this is going. I'm starting to feel defensive. I'm offended. I'm hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all statements of the story. Those are all statements of the story. So if we can start to become sensitized to that. I was listening to a podcast today, and they talked about it this way that was sort of helpful, which is there are kind of three levels that go on before the third level is flipping the lid. But the two levels before that is, one, there's the sense of alertness, something's going on. You're not stressed out about it, you're not really reactive to it, but something's going on. Then the second level is that you're alert and you're alarmed. So now you're sort of sensing a threat. There's something going on here. You haven't totally flipped your lid, but you're starting to feel that sense of, I'm not safe, what's going on, whatever it might be. And then the third level is that you're alert and you're very alarmed. And that is when you're in that flipped lid state where you really lose all of those capacities of the upper brain that I mentioned earlier. Now, the thing that really is the key to all of this is this idea that we are over-identified. I put this out as a proposition, and this is how I do it in the workshop. The reason that threats to our ideas and beliefs can actually trigger our survival drive, can actually look like a threatening lion, right? That we actually feel our physical well-being is on the line, right? Threats to our ideas look like threats to our physical well-being. The reason is because we think our story self, this set of experiences, is our whole self. And so I think of it as, if you're standing on a piece of land, right, and it's a very small piece of land, and it's very easy for the wind to blow you off that land down into a gully or something like that, that's your story self. It's a very small thing to be standing on. And remember how subjective your story self is. So you're really not standing on a firm foundation. But if you think about it, when you've had experience, one of the aspects of the story self is that it's activated when we are thinking about ourselves, when we're thrown back on ourselves, when we're doing mind wandering and thinking through the day and the things we liked and didn't like, or what so-and-so said to us, and I wish I had said this back. Those things that we do, kind of that when the brain sort of just takes over. So that's the story self in action. A different experience we have is that when we're really engaged in something, maybe it's a team that's working really well, or I'm out running, or it's a sport, or when I'm playing music with other people, and I experience a total abandonment into what I'm doing. And there's a name for that, right? It's called flow, being in the zone. And it's an experience where it's across cultures. It's a universal experience for human beings. And it has a certain set of common attributes, one of which is you lose your sense of self. You expand your sense of connection to others, and you're more creative. You're more responsive, right? And then the last one is the time tends to either speed up or really slow down, one or the other. Now that is you too. It's a different experience of you, but it's associated with positive emotions. It's associated with happiness. It's associated with the high points of our life. Story self stuff is miserable. Vast majority of the time it's associated with depressing thoughts. Being in this other zone is associated with, as I say, all sorts of positive emotions. So if you think about what sort of activates that in you, you can strengthen that connection to that part of yourself. So that's what meditation is about. spending time experiencing nature and awe and wonder, having a gratitude practice. All of these things put you in touch with the you that is beyond your story self. And when you really start to investigate it, and meditation is probably one of the most powerful ways to do that, you actually start to integrate it, really integrate it, not just theoretically, but you really start to feel it. That's also who I am. I am more than that story. So if they want to challenge a belief, well, that's fine. I can listen to them. Or if they think something about me that I know is absolutely not true, right? Now the land that I'm standing on is much broader, much wider, et cetera. And that's where you want to be. You don't want to be thrown by other people. And the more you know yourself, the less likely you will be thrown. Because ultimately, all someone can do is tap some insecurity in you, some doubt in you about who you think you are. That's ultimately what it is. If you know who you are, you're good to go. And that's a lifelong journey, however.
Yes, yes. And so it sounds like what you're saying is that when we feel that resistance, we should sort of see it in the same way that pain is. It's a negative feeling, but actually it has a very useful function in the sense that if I touch a hot pot and my hands are burning, I know to sort of let it go, right? So it sounds like what you're saying is the moment that I feel tense, my heart beats faster, I'm, having a harder time breathing when I'm in a conversation, that's actually should serve as a kind of the same way that I kind of pull my hand back and when I'm touching a hot pot, to maybe just take that step back and kind of recover before I try and re-enter that conversation.
Right, exactly right.